I'm here at a friend's property here in Caacupé. It's kind of in Caacupé, but kind of just getting onto the what you'd call the outskirts of the town. And I've come today just to check out progress of some work that he's doing. So I thought I'd fire up the camera because there's a few things about this property and things that are going on here that I think are probably worthwhile for anyone that's looking to maybe come and build anything, or even if you're looking at a building that's pre-existing, there's some things that I want to talk about in regards to some of the construction and also some things that are going on in the garden. Essentially what's happening is my friend who's purchased this property has put this incredible fence up that I'll go for a walk up and talk a little bit more about. But he's also had to lop down some trees that were overhanging some neighbours and do something with those. But what I think is really fascinating is how quickly they'll take something like a tree that's been lopped down, and in literally days they've whacked up some incredible fences. And these guys with a chainsaw, they're just like masters. To do that from a tree that they've just lopped down, cut it into straight posts and then whack up a guitar type fence is really, if you've ever used a chainsaw and put up fences, you look at that and realise that these guys are really serious when they do something. And that fence goes right around, and there's quite a few other fences that they've constructed simply from the timber that they've had to cut down. And they haven't cut down any trees. They're not just deforesting the place, but there were some trees that just had to go because they were dangerous and overhanging some neighbours. So I'll just point that out just to show what these guys can do. And I just marvel at how quickly they can whip an old tree into a beautiful fence. And thankfully some of the timbers here are incredible in terms of their durability. So you can find some types of timber that you can put straight into the ground and that fence will be standing for a long time. And I just think it's cool. But the other thing that I'm really impressed with is this incredible wall that they've built here. And they've whacked that up in what seemed to have been weeks. I don't know exactly how long the project has taken them, but this previously was just an absolute jungle. So to have cut a track through here and put this wall up the way they have, it's an incredible feat. And it is a mega wall. And as you can see, they've done what they traditionally do here, and that is do the concrete pillars reinforced with rebar and then the bricks in between. But there's something in particular I wanted to just point out in regards to the brick that they've used in this wall, because it's relevant to a story that I think is worthwhile telling in regards to if you're thinking about constructing anything here in Paraguay. Just to backtrack, a while ago somebody came and told me they were going to engage a particular builder to do some work for them. This particular builder, in my view, was someone that you would probably need to be cautious about in terms of the quality and the ability to perhaps be completely confident about some of the ways that things would be done. So I relayed that to this person and said, look, you just need to be careful and just be sure of the quality and construction of what you're getting into. They came back to me and said, well, look, it's fine because I'm going to be around all the time. I'm going to basically project manage the build. I'll be on site, so everything should be fine. And what I tried to explain to this person was that that's all good, but when you come to a place like this, you really need to be thinking about some of the challenges and the ways that things can be done around you without you even knowing it. And just to explain, this is the brick that was used in this construction. You would have seen it on other videos that I've made, and it's a really common type of brick that's used here in Paraguay and elsewhere. Someone contacted me and said that they actually see them in Spain, so they must be perhaps originating from Spain in terms of that type of construction. I haven't actually seen them in the places where I've previously lived, but I understand they're widespread in other parts of the world. But they're a hollow brick, quite seriously made in terms of, you know, it's quite impressive the way they make something like that. But I've been looking at these bricks ever since I've been here. And one of the things I've observed about them is they seem to be quite easily broken. And it's generally regarded, these bricks are only used for either things like walls or cheap constructed sheds that you might be keeping stuff in. And this brick is often regarded not suitable to build any sort of serious construction that you're going to be living in. And the reason cited is because it doesn't have sufficient thermal qualities and it's generally not strong enough. Well, I've spoken to a local builder here and he said that can be the case. However, if you use this particular type of brick and you actually join it together rather than putting mortar between the joints, and you keep that cavity uninterrupted and then stucco over that and reinforce it with external stucco and make sure that it's properly constructed with sufficient beams and other engineering safeguards, that can provide really good thermal qualities. I haven't built with it, I wouldn't know, but that's just something that a builder has recently told me, that it can be used quite efficiently in a structure that you're building. And that's quite important for people to keep in mind, because that particular brick there is going to set you back something around 16 cents, 18 cents USD per brick. So it's a very cheap unit of building material. So just something to keep in mind. But the other and most important thing I wanted to talk about was that when I picked these particular bricks up at this site, I noticed that they seem to be heavier and more sturdy. And my friend, who is involved in building this wall, went on to tell me that these particular bricks that they're using on this wall come from one particular brick manufacturer not far from here in the Qroo region, and that these bricks are significantly more robust and better made than just about any of the other bricks that I would have seen of this same configuration. And my friend was telling me that it's only one of a couple places around this department that actually make the better class of brick. Now, why am I telling you this? Because getting back to the story about the chap who was saying that he was going to come here and engage a builder, that he was going to keep on the straight and level in terms of making sure that he was going to get value for money. Really, in Paraguay, when it comes to components, unless you really know what you're looking at, you could be standing and watching a build and they could be bringing in different components of that construction. And unless you know what you're getting, for example, is this particular brick that they're bringing in the first grade brick, or is it the second or third? And so it goes for many of the components, from the pipes to even what they're putting into their mortars and other materials that they're binding the construction together with. You can stand there and watch these things and not really know what you're getting. So if you get anything built in Paraguay, there's two probably really important things you need to do. One is ask a lot of questions about what type of materials they're going to use. If they're going to use a brick, what brick? Is it first grade brick? How is it sourced? Where is it sourced from? Whatever questions you need to ask about that, and particularly so in regards to anything that gets put under the ground, namely any of your plumbing components, because pipes can look like just any old pipe that you might put in the ground, but the difference can be them lasting 12 months or 10 years. Because where I've come from and where you may be located at the moment, generally there's standards in place where you simply can't buy a certain component that will only last a year. But having said that, particularly in New Zealand, ooh la la, they have some instances where people have used components that have just been completely trashed. And it's quite well documented in that country that regardless of all the standards and clipboard warriors you've got there, it's no guarantee that you're not going to be buying componentry to build a structure that turns out to be completely defective. But that's an entirely different story. Suffice to say, when you come to a place like Paraguay, it's all bets are off. And so you cannot take it for granted that, let's say, for example, I came here and saw this beautiful wall here. And I got on the phone to Rodrigo, Juan, Francisco Gomez, Mariscal, and said, hey man, I want you to build me a wall just like that. Well, if I don't ask any more questions, I may get, yeah, no problema. And in no time at all, I may have a wall that kind of looks like that, but the proof in the pudding will be in 5 years' time, 2 years' time, a year's time, depending on how they've built it. So the really important thing is, don't just assume that you're going to get the first-rate gear, the first-rate brick, the first-rate pipe, or anything else. And so it comes back to the old chestnut of Paraguay is all about friendships. You need to have relationships here. You need to have developed those avenues with people that have been here for long enough to be able to really differentiate and be able to identify the devil in the detail, because it does not matter how experienced you are in the place you're coming from. Sometimes that can be your biggest impediment, because you can just have this normalcy bias where you think that because you're always able to pick it in the place you've come from, well, that's just going to transfer to here. And sometimes that can be the biggest stumbling block. And it's something that we're currently building at the moment, so we're going through the same sort of processes. Thankfully, we have confidence in the people that we are working with, and it's a step-by-step thing. Ultimately, you won't really know about the various components until it's down the track, but if you ask the right questions, do the right kind of negotiations and processes at the start of the build, whatever they are, then if down the track things tend to go sideways, hopefully you've got some recourse. But it's not to say that this is going to be such a problem that you'll come here and get something built and it's going to fall over in 5 minutes. If you drive around here, despite the fact that there's a relatively low degree of regulation here, whether it's in the componentry or the way things are built, buildings are standing for a long time here. So it's not like you have to be so worried that you will be in a state of inertia, but you definitely just need to be on your game. And that's really the point I'm making about this, is that you just need to not take anything for granted when it comes to what you're paying for, what you are engaging someone to do for you. And that goes for everything from building to cars. Cars are actually a good one, because I've had different things done on my car at different times, and it's come back and the hose looks like a hose that they pulled off maybe a fish tank pump or something. It's just like, it definitely isn't meant to be a hose running from my fuel pump to my engine or something like that. And you just look at it and you go, where did they get that pipe from? What on earth? And then when you go and get it done again, and hopefully properly, you look at the pipe or the hose that they've used, and you go, yeah, that looks like something that should be seen in an engine. So wherever it is, wherever it comes to components, just keep that in mind. But I mentioned that there were a couple of things at this property that I just wanted to point out, and I think might be of interest to anyone coming to Paraguay. And on a totally different tangent, and I guess in no way really related, I wanted to talk about ants, because when you move to Paraguay, one of the things you will often hear about are the leafcutter ants and how they can just completely destroy your life if you're a gardener. Now, the leafcutter ant, there's several different varieties here in Paraguay and South and Central America. And they essentially come along and they seem to have a sixth sense about the plants that you most value, and they make a beeline for those young plants that have just recently been planted, and they can literally decimate a plantation or orchard in a night. And you can come along and they're completely stripped, and your plants can't really tolerate that too many times. I believe that it's only 1 or 2 times that they're completely Brazilian and it's game over for those poor young plants. So a lot of people kind of give up when it comes to planting fruit trees and things. So this is a major issue. Now, these leafcutter ants, some people, I think, probably resort to poisoning and things, which is really sad, because the leafcutter ant is the ultimate permaculturalist, because when they take the leaf, they're not actually taking it to eat it, they're taking it to take back to their nest, and they grow fungus on the leaf and they eat the fungus. So they're one of the few animals that are actually kind of permaculture farmers. They're really using an organic item to create something else. So I just think that's a little side note, and I think it's kind of cute. But apart from that, they're producing fungus that's in your soil. It's a really important component for biodiversity. So like always, just when things seem not to make sense in the natural kingdom, there is a reason for these things. We just need to look hard enough. So our friend planted these young fruit trees, and he's put a lot of time and effort and resource into getting them. But recently someone came along who was looking after the property and noticed to their horror that the leafcutter ants had been having a party here. So we are kind of interested in permaculture, and we had seen a solution on YouTube, I think, in regards to leafcutter ants and how to minimise their activities. So we suggested that this was worth a shot, and it has worked incredibly well. And what it is essentially, I'll show you an example. We've just put a cup, plastic cup, and sellotaped it around the plant, and now the leafcutter ant can't climb up there. He just climbs up the stem and he hits a plastic roof, and then he can't climb around the cup and further up the stem. So that has apparently solved the issue. And I haven't been out there when these little critters have been trying to overcome this cunning device, but people have been out here recently and been actually watching some ants trying to get around the plastic cup, and it's no luck for the little fellas. They can't overcome it. So that seems to probably be one of the most uninteresting things that you could possibly think of when it comes to a video on YouTube. But if you're coming here to plant anything, that could be your best friend. And we're going to be planting a lot of stuff at our place. We haven't had to engage that kind of tactic anywhere else that we've lived, but we are very pleased to see that it's worked here. And just wanted to share it with you because, you know, in this place you can grow so many things. Beautiful water, the soil, although in some places it needs to be supplemented, you can grow a lot of stuff here. So why not? This is a place to grow things. The biggest challenge can be just keeping the critters at bay. So I just wanted to share that and just let you know that if you do see that on a random video elsewhere, I can confirm that we've tried it, and at least so far, it's working like a charm here. So there you go. If you are looking to plant anything. And just talking about fences, that's just the continuation of that beautiful fence that they built. And I just look at that, and they put that up in days. And I just look at it and just think, my goodness, how many splinters and back spasms and holes in their hands with this munty wire fence did they incur in order to put that up? I just marvel, because sometimes people talk about South America and say, oh, nobody wants to work and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, when you see these guys roll out on a site and roll their sleeves up, they're absolute machines. And to do that with a chainsaw, to create those posts in the way they have, oh, they've got my respect. Absolutely brilliant work, champions. But this property here, as I said before, owned by a friend of mine. I don't want to say where it is because I want to respect his privacy, but I'm so glad that he bought it, because it truly is one of the most beautiful properties in not only this department, but anywhere. It's really beautiful. A gentle slope goes down to a beautiful arroyo, and it's got another smaller arroyo, so it's sort of got two arroyos running through it or alongside it. And doesn't get any better. Only a very, very short distance into the main town, and magnificent mango trees, and soon some beautiful fruit trees. And I just love this place. And I'm very pleased for him. But another thing that I found, because I've walked this property many times, but it used to be really overrun. So these guys, the workers, had got on here and just gone for it and really cleared it out. And you come back and it's like a different property. But one of the funny things I found, because as I say, I've walked right around here many times and I've never seen this, but this is interesting. I found this natural rock formation that just happens to look tremendously like a toilet. It's even plumbed into the ground, so it's got a kind of a tank just out here in the field. I don't know. It's just me, I know. It's just quite a random thing to entertain yourself with, but I thought that was quite classic. Never seen that before, just out in the middle of a paddock. Here we are, in a natural toilet formation. It's pretty cool. That's a sort of ridiculous, mindless thing that entertains me. That's what happens to you when you come to a crazy place. You go a bit nuts. But one of my favourite places in Paraguay, this beautiful, tranquil, gently sloping property that will be in time lived on by my friend and who knows who else, and whoever's here will be in heaven. And all of these beautiful mangaroses that in not too distant time will be laden with fruit, and I'm going to be right there with the net just waiting to take advantage, to pounce. I can't wait. As you know, I think I talked about it on the previous video, I'm hanging out for some mangoes and citrus in season. Nothing better. So there you have it. If you're going to build anything or if you're going to plant anything, hopefully this video is of some use to you. And that's what it's all about, really, just building up the database of information, just picking up little snippets. Some things are useless and not worth knowing, but occasionally you'll pick up something that's definitely worth putting in your back pocket. And if you can build well and plant well, well, you've probably got a lot of the boxes ticked. And that's probably the best we can hope for. So, until next time, take care. Ciao.
No hubiera pensado que yo me iba a enamorar, jamás no quería saber nada más, nunca más. Pero vos apareciste de repente y me hablaste con una voz tan dulce que perdí